I'm honored. I'm honored to be able to do this interview with one of our full-time full stack. Yeah, full stack. I'll try to get the words. The full-time full stack instructors here at Digital Crafts. I've never interviewed or interviewed a colleague of mine, so this is the first for me. So this is great. This is great. Veronica is one of our, like I said, one of our full stack web immersive instructors. And if this is your first time like hearing about Digital Crafts or coming on, like, what is this video? We work at Digital Crafts. We are Digital Crafts. And what Digital Crafts is a boot camp, educational boot camp, expedited education, and quality education with web development. We have UX design and cybersecurity as well coming up. And so, but today I want to focus on an awesome subject of women in tech, which is why I'm happy to be able to interview Veronica. And so, Veronica, if you wouldn't mind, let people know like a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you got to Digital Crafts, I guess.
Okay, well, my background is actually in mechanical engineering. I think you'll find that a lot of people in computer science probably didn't start out as a computer science major or computer science, like that was their field. So I started off in mechanical engineering, and from there I worked for a NASA contractor called United Space Alliance. So I worked on the shuttle program where I designed abort trajectories. And after a while, like I went to a couple different companies. I went to a Boeing contractor, and then I went to Lockheed. And at the time, there were like a lot of layoffs around like 2010, 2011. Mm-hmm. And our whole department got laid off. And so, I live in Houston, and some of the biggest industries in Houston are going to be oil and gas or medicine. So I decided, well, I'm going to go back to school for a master's degree in like offshore oil and gas. And at the time, the price of oil went from $100 per barrel to like $25 per barrel. So they were laying off massively in oil and gas industry. So I was like, well, what am I going to do? Well, at the time, let me go back a little bit. When I first started at United Space Alliance, I actually worked on a simulations team. So I worked on software for the shuttle program. And so I had, I was I learned how to program while on the job. And at the time, a friend of mine who actually used to work here, Paul Bailey, we would do kind of like web stuff on the side. I had joined, so NASA is in this area called Clear Lake in Houston, and I had joined the Clear Lake Chamber of Commerce. And so I was already working with like small businesses, writing applications, like writing like web applications for them, but it was something on the side. And so I never thought at the time, well, this is going to be my career, which is something that I did on the side. So fast forward now to like 2012-ish, I was like, well, what am I going to do? Because, aerospace is laying off people, oil and gas is laying off people, and it takes a long time and a lot of education to get into the medical field, right? Like you have to basically go back to school and get a medical degree. I was like, well, I'm going to fall back on, computer science, on programming. And so from that point on, that's what I did. I just got into, different companies and just kind of pulled myself up at the time. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. Like, so you decide, I'm going to computer science, so I'm gonna start my career, etc. And so, what landed you to Digital Crafts? Like, how did you go from like, okay, I'm doing programming to like, okay, now I want to start teaching others?
Again, I had a friend that we started at United Space Alliance together. His background is in aerospace engineering. So he was in our department. We had a huge department. I was on the descending part. So I designed abort trajectories, and he designed, it was ascent trajectories. And he was like one of my closest friends there. He's still like one of my closest friends. And he was, at the time, he had like actually left engineering early on when after United Space Alliance, I went to Boeing, and he actually went to Norton Antivirus or like Symantec, and he started working for them. So he left engineering and went into tech like early on, and he was always trying to pull me to do that. And I just was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And so around 2012, or maybe like later, he had actually been on the staff for DigitalCrafts. And I was in between jobs, and he was like, I called him about it, and I was like, hey, do they have any positions open at DigitalCrafts? And he was like, yeah, let me just talk to my manager. And from there on, it just kind of all came together.
Legit. That's awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. Um, okay, well, that kind of leads me into like the question because we're talking about women in tech. Um, and so based off statistics, and I have some statistics from builtin.com, and 25% of like just computer related jobs are held by women. So that's 26% like across the board. And then 3% of those are held by African American women, you know. So when you coming into this field, like, have you ever felt like you didn't belong? I know that some people call it imposter syndrome. I don't know like the correct term for it, but like, uh, have you ever felt like you didn't belong in the industry? And if so, like, how did you go about navigating those waters of like not feeling like I belong?
Yeah, imposter syndrome is real. And
Mm,
I understand like a lot of people have it. So I have like a different background. First of all, there was two things why I didn't have it.
yeah.
One, I have a really strong mother who was an
Hey.
auditor, and like I grew up with her, like, auditing me, she was just like, like just spoke really, really strongly and directly. So I just had this
Mm-hmm.
really strong role model. But then also I've always been pushed into math and science classes, and those classes from early on were male dominated.
Mm,
So from a really small, like a really small age, like a really young age, I've been in classes where the majority of the students were males. And so that continued not just in middle school, not just in high school, but throughout college. In mechanical engineering, there's not very many girls, right?
mm-hmm.
So I was used to being in male dominated classes, just around males all the time. So, when I got to NASA, it was still the same environment. It was
Yeah.
mostly just males. I had to talk to astronauts in the astronaut offices. Those are hard people to talk to because they're like captains, in the military, they're hard to talk to, but I had a military dad, so I was used to that. So for me, the imposter syndrome wasn't really a big deal because I was always in an environment where mostly males. And I just I never felt, or I never thought about, I don't belong here. I just felt like I'm doing my job, and I probably
Mm,
can, I never felt that. But I do understand, especially with teaching and seeing young women coming through the program, I understand that it's real because a lot of, we have a lot of different students coming from different backgrounds, from, people who are, I have, now a lady who is a waitress before this, or, people who are driving Uber or doing all this stuff. And maybe they weren't in environments where it was male dominated. So of course, they're going to feel a lot different going into environments where they're the only female sitting in the room.
wow.
So it's real. It's a real situation. So how would I get across that is find a really strong female role model
Mm,
and use that, like, use maybe some of that person's experiences, just someone to talk to. I feel like one of the reasons why women might have a hard time is in male dominated roles is we have, we as women are very emotional, and we tend to bring emotional things to work with us. And that's not how men operate. So I'm not saying that we need to operate just like men, but we need to realize that in a male dominated role, that's going to be the dominant thing. So
mm,
kind of leave some of the baggage from whatever your experience away from, like I've learned, and I don't know how I came across this or why I do this, but I don't talk about like really like a lot of personal things at work. And I know that we as women are emotional creatures, so we do, right? And I think that makes a lot of males feel really uncomfortable. I tend to talk about sports, like find a sport that you like, football, and just talk about that, or talk about stuff like that. Don't
yeah.
men have this way of being able to separate emotion and family from work. You get to work, I'm going to do my
Mm,
work, and family is family, and they're two different things. Where women kind of combine those things, and I feel like in a male-dominated environment, we kind of have to learn how to separate those things. And so
mm.
probably the best way to learn that is to find a strong female role, see how she got ahead. And she's probably one of those people who can separate those things too. She doesn't bring a lot of baggage to work. It's just, I come to work and I'm going to joke around, but it's going to be about sports, or it's going to be about travel, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Gotcha. Wow. It's so interesting hearing like a different perspective. Like, because sometimes, we when we, are in our niche or doing our thing, we just have our own perception of what we're doing. I'm in my own zone, you know what I'm saying? And so I don't really think about others as much, but uh learning to think about others and what they go through and the things that they feeling is real key, I think. So thanks for sharing that. That was really awesome
Yeah,
to hear.
imposter syndrome is real, and it's, it shouldn't be ignored. Um, but there's, but I would say just find a really, really strong female role that can kind of navigate you through the waters and give you that help, that extra support. And if you can't find a role, there's always even women just like in tech that form groups, like in Atlanta, there's Pi ladies, like a Python, like a lady, like a chapter of coding ladies that are so find those groups, network. There's meetup groups where you can find women in really like strong roles, not just coding, right? Engineering or like any type of STEM kind of background. Find those people and network with them and use their momentum to propel you forward.
Awesomeness. So, let's say there's someone out there, they are like, okay, I want to get into tech, I want to start programming. What's ground zero for that person, especially for women like coming in, if like they're gearing everything up, what's the ground zero? Where should they start? Like, what's a good starting point?
So I would start by grabbing a book, like a beginner's book on coding, or finding a Udemy course on coding. You need to decide before you put a lot of money or a whole bunch of time into it that if you even like it. I think a lot of people get caught up in these big salaries that they're hearing that, code, like tech people are making, and they get caught up in the salary and they realize that I may not like sitting in front of a computer for 8 hours a day, right? Just, typing away, right? Like you need to decide if you like this before, because there's a lot of other ways to make money besides coding, right? So you need to decide, because it's not going to be just, for a little bit, this is going to be your life.
Yeah.
And so before you spend time and money and effort into it, you need to decide if you like it. So grab a book, do some of the exercise, like a beginning coding book. All coding has the basic constructs that are going to be the same. And no matter what language you use, it's going to be the same construct. So learn some of those basics in a language of choice. Like it doesn't have to be, web related language, but just learn some of the basics and try to figure out if this is something that interests you, that you're even interested in, and that you like it.
That's always key. And now I'll just put a little plug, because I know that DigitalCrafts, we do have free intro courses. So that's another thing that people could do if they want to. You can sign up for a free intro course and see if you like the material that you are learning, and see if this would be a good course for you. So I guess going forward now, like if someone's in tech, there's a woman who's in tech now. What's like for you, what has been the key to ongoing success in being in tech, in programming, as a woman? Like how have you continued like your ongoing success? Success is like a lack of a term, but I would say more so like, how have you continued your progression? I would say.
Yeah, definitely. So if you don't like learning, if you think you're going to get into the tech field and feel like you're going to learn one thing and then stop and never have to learn anything ever again, you're in the wrong field. Tech changes constantly. Every year there's something, every couple of months there's something else coming out. Every couple of months, the language that you learn or the technology that you learn has changed a bit. They've updated it. So it's a continuously learning you're continuously learning. So you can't be one of those people who just like wants to learn that thing and just be, that's their whole life that they're going to do, like that one thing. And it's not like that. So and this is for anyone in tech, you're going to have to constantly be learning. Like you're constantly learning new things that are coming out. Your basics, and those basics will allow you to learn anything at that point. Like if you're strong in your basics, you can pretty much pick up anything. But there's always something new. So the challenge is, how do you keep all this stuff? Like, how do you keep abreast with all of this like new knowledge coming out? You sign up for newsletters. I sign up for newsletters for like JavaScript, for like Node, for all these different like, and so in my inbox for my email, I get the new things coming out all the time because people are writing newsletters for them.
Yeah.
And you see the new libraries coming out. You see the new,
Mm.
like just the new things coming out, and you can just click on them. And right there, you have a blog telling you about the new features of this thing. So that's a great way. Another way is to join Twitter. My whole Twitter account is devoted to developers, right? It's
Okay.
following developers who put out like quality content or who like write books a lot. So my whole Twitter account, you know, some people follow like stars, I follow developers, right? Like,
Nice.
and so it's completely devoted to developers. And that's how you, like, you'll see on your feed, oh, like this person just did that. And that's interesting. So you just go follow it. Start following open source projects that you like, because there'll be updates on that. And even with those open source projects, if you find somewhere on GitHub or somewhere, there's going to be a list of developers who are contributing to those open source projects. So there you can find people to like or to follow on Twitter, right?
Yeah.
Start going to conferences. Not just to learn new things, but to network with other people. Go to meetup groups, right? There's meetup groups in every city for all the languages, for Node, for Python, for C#, for all of them, right? Start, you know, even though there's a lot of people in tech, there's still not a lot of people compared to the amount of people in the US. So it's still a small community. So you can learn, you can meet a lot of people in your town or your city who are in tech, who are developers, by just going to meetup groups, by, you know, joining certain circles. So yeah, that's how you keep abreast. You know, join a lot of email newsletters. Join Twitter and start following a whole bunch of developers. Get into open source stuff, start contributing, start learning who are in, you know, like who are doing big things in the open source community. Yeah, that's what I would do. Start reading, of course, like in ordering, you know, like maybe keeping up to date. When you find something that's in this newsletter that you want to learn, go find a Udemy course on it, right? Yeah.
Awesomeness. That's a wealth of knowledge right there. That is awesome. I'm like, this is great. Oh, a couple other questions. One, so you started DigitalCrafts for several years ago.
Mm-hmm.
You're still here.
Mm-hmm.
So why still teaching like in a boot camp setting?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of reward from seeing people going from a Uber driver barely making it to someone who's all of a sudden like, you know, like a developer who's just, you know, making, you know, able to support their family. There's a reward, a deep reward in that you can't really get from just a regular job. You know what I mean? Like teaching, there's just, I mean, it's just for teachers, or instructors or professors from any discipline. I think there's deep reward, or there's a deep sense of reward when you see someone progress and change your life. And I think are in a unique position because we get to see that change a lot more rapidly. In a university, it takes them 4 years to graduate and they have to go find a job, but we can see the change in people within 4 months, and then maybe a couple months after it, you know, they graduate to find a job. But we've seen, you know, just story after story after story about like, this has completely changed my direction in life. Now I can buy a house. Now I can buy a car. Now I can like support my family. And so it's completely changed directions of people. And I think that there's like a, I don't know, like almost like you could just get drawn into it, and it just becomes like there's just something deeply rewarding about it. I think that why, you know, instructors stay.
Awesomeness. I guess my last question is for any woman who's coming into or thinking about doing a boot camp, this accelerated boot camp, or anyone in general, what would your advice be for them? Like any expectations, etc. What would your advice be for that person?
Yeah, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of something new. If this is something that truly interests you, don't worry about the imposter syndrome, because no matter if you're a male or a female or whatever race or gender, you're going to have some type of imposter syndrome where you're going to be afraid or think that, you know, maybe I'm not good enough, and you are good enough. Don't let society or other things or people tell you otherwise. If this is something that truly interests you, then there are so many opportunities out there for you to change your course in life. So if this is something that you truly interest, you can start reading about, or get a beginner's level book, and then see how you can progress from there. But start just tinkering around with stuff. A lot of coding is just tinkering around and like learning like different little things and just assembling them together, right? Part of being a developer is being a problem solver. And so learn those problem solving skills, learn how to be able to look at a pattern and try to figure out how you can repeat that pattern or create a different solution based on that original pattern. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So improve your pattern solving skills, like your pattern recognition skills, your problem solving skills. I think that, coming from an engineering background, those were always things that we were working on since the early in life, problem solving and pattern recognition. And people who are just coming into tech who maybe didn't have a STEM background, that's something that they struggle with, and something that my own students struggle with, right? And so you have to learn how to be able to look at a pattern and be able to recognize the pattern and apply it to a problem that you're trying to solve here. This problem is maybe not exactly the same, but it's similar. And so I think people in STEM have that kind of it's not natural. It's something you've just been working on since the early age. But people who are just coming in tech, it's something they need to start working on: pattern recognition and problem solving. Because as a developer, no one's paying you to learn how to write a function. They're paying you to solve a problem. So you're a problem solver.
That's good. I mean, that is also like, there's like so many nuggets. I'm taking it all in, and I'm like, this is great. Like, that's some life stuff itself too. That's great. That's great. Thank you so much, Veronica. I'd be remiss to just let those know who are watching that if this is a path you want to go down, of course, DigitalCrafts, we have a roadmap for you to be able to go down. You can schedule an info call with one of our enrollment coordinators. I'm one of the enrollment coordinators. You'll be connected with one of us, and we can go through the list of everything, pricing, the basics of the program, and even career services that we offer. So if this is something that you all want to do, then feel free to schedule an informational call on our website, digitalcrafts.com. Veronica, it was awesomeness. This was great. Thank you so much for taking the time to share.
Thanks for inviting me. Thank you.